Today I'm going to be talking about how to learn business, and more specifically how to build an online agency the easy way or the easier way, because there's many very complicated ways of doing it, certainly, but there are a few tricks and a few strategies and tactics that we can use to make the learning curve less steep. Because when I learned business, I had to go through hell. I had to basically get in a room, sit there with a laptop with 100 kilobit internet, or kilobyte I think it was, so it barely worked, and I had to learn how to do most of the stuff myself. It was super challenging, actually, so it took me a very long time to get good at business. It took me 2 years to build a profitable business because I just started making a loss, and then I had to get a job, etc., etc. So I don't want you to go through all that. I want you to have an easier time learning business. And in this video, I'm going to share an easier way based on hundreds of students that I've taught, and the results they've gotten, and how fast they were able to get the results versus some other students who maybe got it slower or didn't get it at all. So in this video, we'll cover the success stories versus the less success stories, let's say. So why am I teaching business? Well, because I did business for 6 years, and then eventually I got into teaching business because people just asked me to. I just saw a demand, and I basically had to do it. People were just saying, Alex, please teach me. I'm really interested in this business stuff. And at the time, I was traveling the world, and I had an online business, and I was freelancing before that as well. So I thought, okay, well, if the market demands it, if I have to do it, then I'll do it. But then I actually figured out that I actually like doing it. I like teaching people. I like seeing them getting results. I like seeing them grow slowly from a beginner to someone who's learning faster and getting better results, and then helping students and stuff like that. I like seeing people's progression. So it's inspiring for me. It brings me closer to my goal to help a bunch of people build a $1 million business. And that's what I've been doing for the last 4.5 years. So the reason I want to share some of these faster learning principles with you is because I really want people to get results faster. Most people, they can't just spend years or months or whatever trying out business and failing over and over and over. They kind of need to see results relatively quickly. Otherwise, most people give up. And honestly, if it takes several months, I think it's perfectly fine. I think if it takes 3 months to get business results, it's perfectly reasonable, to be honest with you. And if it takes you less than that, if we can cut the learning curve from a few months to less than that, that's even better. The faster, the better, of course. So let's talk about some of the strategies. So why should you do this? Why should you be in the business in the first place? And why should you learn it in the fastest, most efficient way possible? Because if you can quit your job faster, then you can focus on business more and you'll get results faster. It's just as simple as that. You spend less of your time in indentured slavery, basically, in jobs, and you can spend more of your time doing what you have grown to love and what really allows you to generate a lot of results and value for the world. So, and you can make the world a better place, basically, and make your life better, travel the world, do whatever it is you're interested in doing. So, basically, what happened was, I noticed that some students, they get results way faster than others. Let's just, since I have a whiteboard here, make some drawings, right? So, some students, they look the same, they talk the same, and some, well, similarly. But there's just some differences that I've noticed. And some people, they don't get results as fast. And other people, they get results almost instantly. Some people, give them a phone and they just do a cold call, and the first call is a sale. Why is that? Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's luck. Well, at first I thought that. At first I thought it could be just luck. It could be that this person just got lucky on his first cold call. But after a few years of coaching, I've started noticing some patterns. So there's a few patterns here, and there's a few patterns here. And I noticed that there's patterns for the model success and the patterns for the human success. And it's kind of similar to when you're buying something and you're doing sales. People are buying partially from you, and they're partially buying the service. And in the same way, you're partially responsible, and the model is partially responsible, right? It's not just you are 100% responsible for every single thing in the world. Although that's a healthy mindset for growth, it's not 100% true. So if you enter in the right model, it's just more likely you'll end up in this category and less likely you'll end up in this category. So let's talk about the right model. Or actually, let's talk about the wrong model first. So the wrong model is, for beginners at least, let's get into business and get investors. So let's get investors, and let's find an idea, like question mark, idea. And then the idea needs to be this magical idea, and then you need to build a business with the idea. And then let's like build websites and build infrastructure and like build like a little house and like put nice stuff in the house and try to sell inventory from the house or whatever, like website, whatever you want to call it, basically. So like build out all kinds of stuff for your business to work, right? So why is this wrong? Why am I saying you shouldn't build out all this stuff in your business? Why is this wrong? It's because people spend building their little websites and their little storefronts and getting all this inventory, but there's no proof. People are just wasting time on unproven business models. So what is the right model? The right model for beginners is to proven business model, to use a proven successful business model and then implement that. For example, you can go into things like franchising, right? So, and then get coached by people who are just a little bit ahead of you. And then once you get to their level, people who are just a little bit ahead of them, and so on and so forth. So there's principles here. There's ways of teaching people that are better. For example, the wrong way of teaching someone, and surely I've made that mistake in the past, is to use all these complicated terms and make business seem like this very complicated, scary thing. So business is not that scary. It's not that complicated. Sure, you need to learn some skills. You need to learn sales. Probably need to learn something for delivery, like ads, how to deliver ads. But there's ways of learning this. You can break things into steps. For sales, we have the 7 steps. The 7 steps. It's like the main thing in our little mastermind called Business Mentor Insiders. So if you use that structure, the 7 steps, suddenly sales is not super complicated to learn, because first you'll learn the first step, which is just breaking the ice, and the second step, the third step. Eventually, you don't need to do everything perfectly. You can get sales without going crazy, as long as you're in the right industry, as long as you learn a little bit about what you're selling, and you can deliver value to clients. It's not that hard. Most people who do sales have no clue what they're doing. Most people trying to sell, they have no clue what they're doing. And it's not that much harder to do better at them than them, rather. Just try calling any random company in your neighborhood, like any lawyer or whatever. They're not very good on sales calls. They don't even try. They're like, oh, send us an email or whatever. Waste of time. They're stuck in just 20 years ago. They're still doing business the way people did business 20 years ago. And if you see a company doing that, they need help. And that's where we come in. We can build new systems for them. We can build new marketing funnels for them, all kinds of stuff. And it's not that complicated to learn because we're not stuck in the 1990s. It sounds oversimplified almost, like we're just not stuck there. No, we're just, if you start now learning stuff, you're going to learn the new stuff. You're not going to learn the stuff from the 1990s. And it's not going to take you very long to get better at it than someone who's completely behind on it. And most businesses are. Make no mistake. Most businesses are hopelessly behind when it comes to innovation, when it comes to funnels, when it comes to building stuff online. They don't know what the hell is going on. So let's talk about the people. So let's say you've learned some skills and whatever, or you want to learn some skills. Let's talk about the people. So what do the right people, or the fast learners rather, do? And what do the slow learners and the people who just don't get it? What is the difference here? So this guy here, he kind of starts blaming and looking for issues. So he's like this negative person, right? He's stuck in this negative mindset, finding problems and then pointing them out. And instead of trying to solve them, just saying, well, you said this wrong, so you probably don't know what you're talking about, or something like that. And you give them like just the best sales training on the planet. And they're like, yeah, but that's not what I've heard. Yeah, exactly. That's why it works. Just do it. It works. And they find mistakes. They find flaws. They don't really implement. This brings me to the next point, is implementation. It's just not there. You know, like the winners, they implement fast. Right? You tell them, here's what works, and they try it 100 times the next 7 days, and they probably already get results with that as well. Just because they've already tried, and they did volume. They didn't just try a little bit, they did volume. So these guys, when they ask questions, they ask general, unspecific, weird questions that don't make any sense. Like generally stuff like, how do I make my business work better questions. Whereas these guys, they ask specific questions, and they suggest a solution. That's 3 S's already. And then they listen. I'll use an S for that as well. The 4 S's already. And then they implement. Right? They take very specific advice on a very specific situation, and they give context as well. Okay, I'll use the letter C for this. They give context. Context is huge. If you ask one question in 2 different ways, it can mean vastly different things. Like, how do I get better? At what? How do I get better at sales? That's more context already. How do I get better at sales with inbound leads from an online funnel where people already know what they're interested in? That's a much more specific question. But how do I make that question even better? All of that plus... And here's what I suggest. Here's what I've tried. Here's the results that I've gotten. Here's a 1-minute recording of one of these sales calls. How can I improve it? Whoa, now we're getting somewhere. That is a question that a winner asks. This is how you get results faster, okay? Another thing is, they keep going. Like this guy, he's like, oh, I'll just try this a little bit. I'll try this a little bit. He's looking for some kind of quick, shiny object that supposedly can get him results in business, okay? So he's looking for like the shiny object. He's a dabbler. Whereas this guy, you give him the framework, and he just works on the framework. He makes the framework work. It's like the difference between a 14-year-old girl on Instagram just clicking around like, oh, shiny, and okay, here's the book that'll teach me how to make $1 million. And I'm going to implement this book to the letter until it works, right? That's this guy. Here's the framework. He's going to implement it until it works. Whereas this guy, he's just going to look for the next shiny object, and he's going to look for the next guru and the next magical system to make money online. You don't need any of that. You just need a simple process, and then you need what we talked about here, right? The right type of mentorship, the right type of processes to learn that have been proven to work, and then go step by step to the next level. So those are just some differences. There's so many differences in how people learn. There's so many differences that I've noticed throughout the years by learning this. So if you become more like this person, you can cut years off your learning curve, right? So the way we do this in BMI, in Business Mentor Insiders, is we guide people through it. We have a process. We like call them. We actually want people to get results. We call them. We make sure they're on the path. They're implementing the thing that they're supposed to be implementing. Sometimes we're a little bit rough with people. Like today, just to give an example, outside of BMI, so I went to yoga today, and at a certain point I couldn't breathe, and like I couldn't feel my hands or legs, so they had to carry me out of hot yoga, and then the teacher came out and yelled at me. So this is unfair. Like, why is he yelling at me? I have like this thing where I can't move, right? No, it's my fault. I ate before yoga, and I didn't drink enough water, and it's hot yoga, so you sweat out 1.5 liters of water during yoga. You need to come prepared, otherwise you're going to fucking die in there. And it's 100% my mistake. Similarly, if you do business, you need to come prepared. You need to have the time. You don't need some massive investment or anything like that if you do business properly early on with testing and stuff like that. But you need to have the time. You need to have your 20, 30 hours a week. If you come unprepared, you're like, okay, I need to make money tomorrow. I don't have any time as well. And like, okay, no, that's you're not ready for business yet. Just wait a little bit longer than that. You need to have time and a place to sit and work. And it's not super complicated, but you need to have the time and place to sit and work. And some other stuff as well. Like you need to have good internet. People don't realize they just have like horrible internet, doesn't work half the day. You're on a sales call and they just drop off. It's crazy. Of course you can't build a business like that. So those are just some things, okay? So we discussed maybe 1% here, and this really works. You don't need to be a master teacher, and you don't need genius level IQ people to build businesses. And if you follow a good system, it kind of just works better.